Imagine a startup, right? And they build a piece of artificial intelligence so utterly perfect that it literally just does your job for you before you even ask. Like it anticipates your needs, it never makes a mistake.
The absolute dream scenario.
Right. It is, by all objective measures, a total masterpiece of software engineering. But then imagine that exact same company just goes completely bankrupt in like 18 months, violently crushed, totally forgotten, and beaten by a competitor with a product that is objectively 50% worse.
Yeah, it is. Well, it's the darkest, most terrifying nightmare for any founder. But historically speaking, I mean, it's also the most common outcome.
Exactly. So today on the deep dive, we are looking at a hyper-detailed, incredibly aggressive manifesto that explained exactly why the quote-unquote best product rarely wins in the modern tech landscape.
And more importantly, it outlines how to weaponize marketing to make sure you don't end up in that Silicon Valley graveyard.
Yeah. Our mission today is to explore this really fascinating strategic blueprint. It was originally published as a blog post titled Unicorn Wings
Whoa.
Possible by a guy named Paramendra Kumar Bhagat.
Right, and it's designed for one specific newly founded AI startup called Logical.io.
And what makes this source material so compelling for us to unpack today is that it is not, a polite, high-level philosophical overview of business.
Oh, not at all, no.
It's this unfiltered, rigid 5-year marketing plan and a deeply technical product pare down too. It's designed to take Logical from a promising little beta product with like a few thousand users into a billion-dollar unicorn.
Which is wild. And it gives us this incredibly rare window into the financial mechanics and the sheer strategic ruthlessness required to actually dominate today's tech industry.
Right. So if you are listening to this, whether you are building a startup, running a small business, or honestly just trying to navigate your own career, the hook for you here is understanding why having a perfect product or perfect skills is just no longer enough.
Yeah, we are going to unpack how this document argues that treating marketing not as some, secondary department, but as an unshakable, always-on operating system is literally the only guaranteed way to survive.
Exactly. But okay, before we get into the ruthless math and the billion-dollar projections, we need to understand the actual asset they are trying to scale. So what exactly is Logical.io?
Right. To understand the stakes here, we have to look at what they've actually built.
Yeah.
So Logical.io is an AI startup founded in 2025 by two childhood friends from Sri Lanka,
Okay.
Sam Karu and Anushka Idamakarala, and they were part of Y Combinator's fall 2025 batch.
And Y Combinator, for anyone who might not know, is essentially the Harvard of startup accelerators, right? It's where companies like Airbnb, Stripe, Dropbox all got their start.
Exactly. It's elite. And the source material describes Logical's core product with this really brilliant piece of shorthand. They call it Clippy, but actually good.
Oh man, Clippy. Just hearing that name triggers a very specific trauma for anyone who used a computer in the late 90s or early 2000s.
I know, right? That little animated paperclip just tapping on the glass.
Tapping on my screen, it looks like you're writing a letter, and it's like, no, Clippy, I'm having a total panic attack over a term paper at 3 a.m. Just leave me alone.
Yeah, it's the perfect example of the friction of early, well-intentioned assistance. I mean, Clippy was proactive, sure, but it was incredibly dumb.
Very dumb.
It didn't actually understand context at all. But what Logical is doing is technically vastly different, not just from Clippy, but from the massive AI platforms we use right now in 2026.
Okay, so how does it differ from, like, the chat GPTs of the world?
Well, think about how you use a standard chatbot today. You're working in a spreadsheet, you run into a problem, and you have to literally stop what you are doing.
Right, open a new browser tab.
Exactly. Log into the AI and then type out a very specific, highly detailed prompt explaining your exact problem. You have to manually feed it all the context.
Yeah, my analogy for traditional prompt-based AI is that it's like having an extremely smart but incredibly lazy intern sitting in the corner of your office.
That's a great way to put it.
Like, they have a genius-level IQ, but they just sit there doing absolutely nothing until you walk over, hand them a meticulously written list of instructions, and say, do exactly this.
That is exactly the dynamic. But Logical operates completely differently. They are building a proactive desktop copilot.
Meaning it doesn't wait for prompts.
Right. Logical watches your screen, your open applications, your emails, and your Zoom meetings in real time. It is entirely context aware.
Wow.
So instead of a lazy intern waiting for a prompt, Logical is like a seasoned executive assistant just standing quietly over your shoulder.
Okay, so what does that actually look like in practice?
Well, they see you struggling to find a time to meet someone in an email thread, and before you even ask, they slide a sticky note across your desk saying, "Here are your 3 open slots this week. Should I send them?"
Man. And the source details the mechanics of how they achieve this through a feature they call logical Lumos mode, right?
Yes, Lumos mode. It provides this real-time, invisible assistance.
So, for example, the document explains that if you are staring at a complex spreadsheet, Lumos mode will suggest the exact Excel formulas you need right there on the screen, like without you asking for it.
Exactly. Or, if you are reading an email in Gmail or a message in Slack, it just drafts a contextual reply directly inside the app.
That's wild. It even auto-extracts actionable to-dos, assigns due dates, and pulls them out of your meetings and chats. And you never have to manually enter a single task.
Right, that's the proactive element. The AI is doing all the heavy lifting of context gathering. It bridges the gap between intention and execution.
But wait, hold on. This is where the alarm bells immediately start ringing in my head, and I'm sure for anyone listening right now, too.
The privacy thing.
Yes. You were telling me there is an AI that is permanently watching everything on my screen. Every single email I type, every private Slack message to my boss, my bank statements when I log into my checking account, my private photos.
I know. It sounds intense.
It sounds like an absolute dystopian privacy nightmare. Like, how does the manifesto address the fact that corporate IT departments would actively block this from ever being installed on a work computer?
That is the crucial vulnerability. And it's actually where their underlying engineering architecture becomes their biggest selling point.
Oh, really?
Yeah. What's fascinating here is how they've engineered around that exact fear.
Ah.
Not with, PR promises, but with actual hardware. The source emphasizes that Logical runs entirely locally on your desktop.
Okay, locally meaning?
Specifically, it requires Apple Silicon, meaning you have to have a Mac with an M-series chip running macOS 14.0 or higher.
Wait, why does the chip matter so much? Why couldn't it run on an old Intel Mac?
Because of how the AI processes information, instead of using what we call large language models, or LLMs.
Like the massive brains behind ChatGPT.
Exactly. Those require literal warehouses full of servers to run.
Right.
But Logical primarily relies on small language models,
Right.
SLMs.
Okay, let's break that down for a second. What is the actual mechanical difference between a large language model and a small language model in this context?
Okay, think of a large language model as a massive, sprawling super library that contains the sum total of human knowledge, right?
Yeah.
But it's located in another city.
Okay.
Every
Yeah.
time you want an answer, you have to package up your data, put it on a highway, which is the internet, send it to the library, let the librarians process it, and wait for them to send the answer back.
Right, and that travel time creates lag.
Yes. But more importantly, it means your private data is leaving your building and sitting on someone else's servers out in Virginia or wherever.
Right, which is exactly what highly regulated industries like law, finance, healthcare just cannot allow. They can't have client data beamed to a server farm.
Exactly.
Oh,
Now, a small language model is entirely different. Imagine taking just the logic, the syntax, and the reasoning capabilities of that giant library, compressing it incredibly tightly, and downloading it directly onto the specialized neural engine inside your Mac's M-series chip.
oh, wow, so it lives on the laptop.
Right. It doesn't need the internet to think. It's thinking locally, right there on your hard drive.
So the data never actually leaves my laptop.
Exactly. The SLM watches your screen and processes your private information securely on your own device.
But surely an SLM isn't as smart as a massive LLM, right? Like, what happens when it gets confused?
Good question. It only ever pings what the document calls sanitized cloud, large language models, when it needs extreme, heavy reasoning power that your laptop just can't handle.
Okay, wait, what does sanitized mean in this context? That sounds like a buzzword.
It means that before Logical sends a complex query to the cloud, it strips out all personally identifiable information.
Okay.
Yeah, it removes names, company data, financial numbers, and replaces them with generic variables. So it just sends the skeleton of the problem to the cloud, gets the logic back, and then reapplies your private data locally.
Oh, that's clever. So the core promise, the absolute bedrock of their product, is that no raw user data is ever sent to or stored on logical servers.
Never. And furthermore, you can manually exclude specific apps. So if you open your banking app, you click one button, and Logical turns completely blind to that window. It just stops watching.
That is a massive technical differentiator. I mean, it completely transforms a privacy nightmare into a secure, enterprise-ready tool.
It really does.
And when you look at who actually built this, that level of technical elegance makes perfect sense. The source material spends a good amount of time outlining the profiles of these two founders, Sam Karu and Anushka Idamakarala.
Yeah, and it categorizes them as what Silicon Valley calls S-tier founders.
S tier meaning like the absolute top of the pyramid in terms of raw talent and pedigree. Let's look at Sam Karu, the CEO. His background is honestly almost intimidating.
It's insane.
He is a standout in physics, right? He's the best performing Sri Lankan ever at the International Physics Olympiad, where he won a silver medal.
Which is,
I mean, to even qualify for that room means your brain processes complex logic at a level most people just can't even comprehend.
truly. And then he went on to become a UCLA PhD dropout. His specific research focused on AI for wireless networks. Plus, he previously worked on AI optimizations at NVIDIA.
NVIDIA, which is essentially the epicenter of the global AI hardware boom right now.
Exactly. And then you have Anushka, the CTO. He's a University of Virginia dropout. And his specialization was specifically in context-aware predictive AI.
Which directly maps one-to-one with exactly what Logical is doing.
Right. They aren't just two random guys who decided to, jump on an AI trend. They have been studying the precise mechanics of this exact problem for years.
And the manifesto details this incredible, almost romanticized Silicon Valley origin story for them. They moved into this 19th century Victorian hacker house in San Francisco called MDM.
Ah, yes. The Hacker House. For anyone unfamiliar, a Hacker House is basically a commune for tech founders.
Right.
You cram a bunch of brilliant, highly ambitious people into a single house, you sleep in bunk beds, you eat ramen, and you surround yourself 24/7 with other risk takers.
It's exhausting.
It is. It's an environment designed to completely eliminate work-life balance and focus purely on shipping code.
Right. So they applied to Y Combinator with barely a functional prototype, got accepted, and built the solution in a matter of months.
Which is an incredible sprint.
Very fast. By late November 2025, they had launched a public beta. And after their YC demo day, which is essentially graduation day where startups pitch to hundreds of investors, they had over 1,000 active, dedicated users who absolutely loved the product.
Which brings us to a really fascinating inflection point in their journey.
Okay.
So Logical has this incredibly sticky, hyper-proactive product. It's highly secure. They have S-tier technical founders, and they have 1,000 active beta users who are experiencing massive productivity gains.
Right.
In standard Silicon Valley lore, you pop the champagne. You have won the hardest part of the game. You've achieved what the industry calls product market fit.
Right. You've proven that you can build something people actually want to use.
Yes. But the manifesto we are diving into today argues that this exact moment achieving product market fit is actually where the greatest tragedy in tech happens. It is the danger zone.
Okay, wait. I have to push back on this premise immediately.
Go for it.
Because standard business logic says that if a product is truly generating a 5x productivity increase for knowledge workers, which is a few, Logical's stated goal doesn't word of mouth eventually just win out.
You would think so, but
I mean, think about it. If I find a tool that magically does my to-do list for me automatically, I am not keeping that a secret. I am telling every single person in my office. I'm telling my friends.
of course.
Why does the source claim the traditional build it and they will come wisdom is completely wrong here? Why is product market fit a tragedy?
Because it creates a psychological blind spot, particularly for brilliant engineers. To understand why, we really have to look at the psychology of someone like Sam, a physics Olympiad silver medalist.
Okay, walk me through that mindset.
When you operate at that elite level of academia and hard science, your entire worldview is built on a very specific premise.
Mm-hmm.
The objectively right answer, the best math, the cleanest code, always wins.
Oh, I see. Gravity doesn't need a marketing campaign, it just works.
Exactly. Gravity just works. So they assume the free market functions exactly like a physics equation. If product A is mathematically more efficient than product B, well, product A will naturally dominate.
Right.
And the author of this manifesto, Paramendra Kumar Bhagat, is staging a brutal intervention against that exact mindset.
He's trying to shake them out of it.
Yes. He argues that having a great product actually blinds founders to market realities because it creates a false sense of security. They look at their 1,000 happy users and think, oh, we have PMF. Now we just slowly scale the servers and let the product speak for itself.
But Bhagat points out that without a massive, relentless, always-on marketing engine, a tool like Logical just stays a cute YC desktop app.
Yes. Because word of mouth, while genuine and highly converting, is inherently linear.
Right, it's slow. One person tells two people tell four.
And in an environment like the tech landscape in 2026, where the noise level is deafening and capital is moving at lightning speed, slow is a death sentence.
It really is.
The source notes that AI assistants are projected to be a $126 billion market by 2030. When a market is that big, you aren't just competing against other scrappy startups and hacker houses.
No, you're competing against the distribution monopolies. You're competing against Apple and Microsoft.
Exactly.
And this is the core threat, isn't it? If Logical scales slowly via word of mouth, they give Microsoft a 2-year window to look at Logical, realize it's a great idea, and simply build a slightly worse version of it directly into the Windows operating system.
Yep. And Microsoft can do that.
And when Microsoft forces an update to 1 billion computers overnight, it just doesn't matter that Logical's SLM architecture is 20% more efficient. Microsoft has distribution. Logical is dead.
That is the exact mechanism of the tragedy. Exceptional products alone do not make unicorns. The manifesto insists that founders must unlearn their academic biases.
They have to stop viewing marketing as something fluffy, imprecise, or dirty.
Right. They have to stop seeing it as a department that you just fund with whatever money is left over after you pay the engineering team.
The document uses a very specific metaphor here that I loved. It says, founders need to treat marketing exactly like compute power or electricity.
Yes, and that is a vital paradigm shift. Think about it. When an engineering team spins up Amazon Web Services to host their database, they don't form a committee to debate whether they really need electricity this month.
That's right. They don't say, let's pause the servers for a week to save cash.
Exactly. They don't view server costs as an optional luxury. They just plug it in, pay the bill, and view it as fundamental infrastructure.
And the manifesto argues that marketing, the mechanism of distribution, must be treated with the exact same non-negotiable rigidity.
It has to be. If founders treat marketing as a nice-to-have or something they only turn on after the product is finally quote-unquote perfect, they end up in the 99% of Y Combinator startups that quietly vanish.
So, if passive word of mouth is a guaranteed death sentence against the tech giants, what is the mechanical fix? Because what makes this manifesto so fascinating is that it doesn't just offer, high-level philosophy about the importance of marketing.
Right, it's very tactical.
It provides a brutally specific, mathematically rigid equation to force growth. It architects inevitability. Let's dig into the actual blueprint, starting with what the author calls Phase 0.
Okay, so Phase 0 is the immediate triage intervention.
Yeah.
It's a 30-day rollout plan designed to completely restructure how the company operates.
Okay, 30 days is fast. What happens?
The manifesto demands that Logical place its existing in-house sales and marketing team under the absolute direction of an outside marketing consultant.
Okay, wait.
Now, the subtext here, of course, is that the author, Bhagat, is positioning himself for this role. But whoever holds the role, the mandate is that this consultant must have founder-level authority on all go-to-market decisions.
Okay, I have to pause there because that is intensely aggressive. You are walking up to two brilliant founders who just survived the crucible of Y Combinator, who built a masterpiece product, and you are telling them to hand over the keys to the entire growth engine to a total outsider.
It's a massive ask.
How do you possibly justify that to an S-tier founder who likes to control every variable? Like Sam is a physics guy. He wants to control the variables.
You justify it by pointing out the internal engineering bias we just talked about. If marketing reports to the CTO, marketing will always lose out to product development.
Oh, because the CTO will always want to spend the next $100,000 on hiring a better machine learning engineer rather than running LinkedIn ads.
Exactly. By giving the marketing consultant founder-level authority, you firewall the growth engine from those engineering biases.
So the founders still control the product.
Right. The founders retain absolute control over the vision and the product roadmap, but the execution speed of user acquisition belongs entirely to the marketing infrastructure.
It's basically enforcing a separation of powers. And the funding required to turn on this Phase 0 engine is incredibly specific. The manifesto requires an immediate upfront commitment of $80,000 from the startup.
Yes. That breaks down as a $20,000 one-time sign-up bonus to establish the consultant's war chest, plus a retainer of $20,000 a month for the first 3 months.
I mean, for a newly minted startup, $80,000 is a massive amount of runway to gamble on a consultant.
It is, which is why the mandate for that $80,000 is crystal clear and completely ruthless. The consultant must achieve a break-even return on investment, or ROI, in 3 months or less.
Wow, 3 months.
Realistically, the author claims it should take 2 months. This means every single dollar spent on marketing and consultant fees has to generate at least $1 in net new revenue within that 90-day window.
How do they actually do that in such a short time frame? I mean, typical B2B software sales take months just to close.
Through hyper-targeted, highly aggressive paid acquisition, they aren't running like generic billboard ads or vague brand awareness campaigns.
They don't have the time or money for that.
Exactly. They are running surgical strikes on Meta, Google, and LinkedIn, specifically targeting Mac power users. So
Right.
developers, designers, financial analysts.
People who live on their computers.
Right. People who are actively expressing frustration with the friction of ChatGPT. They find the exact people who feel the pain of context switching, and they put logical directly in front of them with a frictionless path to install.
And because it runs locally and is so fast to set up, if they execute correctly, the high conversion rate of the product itself pays back the ad spend almost immediately.
Exactly. The product does the heavy lifting once they get it in front of the right eyeballs.
So phase zero is simply the proof of concept. They spend $80K and they prove that for every dollar they put into the marketing machine, the machine spits a dollar back out, effectively making the growth free from that point forward.
Yes.
But here is where the document gets completely radical. Once phase zero is proven to work, the manifesto institutes something it calls the 20% rule.
The holy grail of this document.
Right. I want to spend some real time on this because when I read the section, it completely upended how I thought startups operated. Break down the mechanics of the 20% rule for us.
So the 20% rule is the beating heart of this entire 5-year plan. It dictates that once the phase zero model is proven, 20% of all top-line revenue and 20% of every single venture capital fundraise must be permanently ring-fenced for marketing.
Permanently.
Permanently. It is baked into the company's financial DNA. It is not a suggestion. It is a fundamental law of physics for the company's ecosystem.
I want to make sure the mechanics of this are crystal clear. My analogy for this, and tell me if I'm off base here, is that it's like installing a RAM air intake on a jet engine.
Oh, I like that.
Because if you just have a forced savings account, money just sits there. But a ram air intake works by forcing air into the engine. The faster the jet flies, the more air gets rammed into the intake, which creates more combustion, which makes the jet fly even faster, scooping up even more air. It's an exponential feedback loop.
That is a perfect mechanical metaphor. Let's apply it to Logical's actual numbers. If the company hits $10 million in annual recurring revenue, ARR, $2 million goes straight to the marketing machine, automatically.
Without a meeting.
Exactly. As revenue climbs to $50 million, the marketing budget automatically scales to $10 million. It forces exponential scale.
But the part that really shocked me is applying this to venture capital fundraisers.
Yeah, this is the controversial part.
Very. The manifesto says if they raise a $20 million series a round, which is the first major round of institutional venture funding, $4 million of that cash is earmarked for marketing before a single new engineer is hired, before a single new server is spun up, before they even sign a lease on an office.
Right.
I have to play devil's advocate here.
Please do.
If I am a partner at Andreessen Horowitz or Sequoia Capital, and I just handed a 24-year-old physics dropout a check for $20 million, I am giving them that money to hire the best AI researchers on the planet to widen the technological moat.
That's the traditional view, yes.
If that founder turns around and says, thanks for the $20 million, I'm immediately wiring $4 million of it to an outside marketing consultant to buy Facebook ads, wouldn't the VC pull the term sheet immediately? Like, how does the manifesto justify that heresy to the investors?
It's a phenomenal question, and it gets to the core of what venture capitalists actually care about. You have to remember, VCs don't fund research projects. They fund growth.
Okay, sure.
They want a return on their capital.
Yeah.
If a founder walks into a VC pitch meeting and says, we built a great product, please give us $20 million so we can try to figure out how to sell it, the VC sees massive risk. That is funding an experiment.
Right. They are taking on the risk of distribution.
Exactly. But if Sam Khoury walks into that same VC meeting and says, we instituted the 20% rule 6 months ago, we have mathematical proof that every dollar we put into our marketing machine yields $3 in annual recurring revenue because our product is sticky and our churn is basically zero. We aren't asking you to fund an experiment. We have a machine that prints money, but the crank is just too heavy for us to turn quickly. We are raising $20 million to attach a jet engine to the crank. 20% of your money will immediately become $12 million in ARR.
Ah, so you completely remove the distribution risk from the investor's perspective,
Exactly. The manifesto argues this flips the entire power dynamic of fundraising. Usually, startups are begging VCs for money to figure out how to grow,
which gives the VC all the leverage.
right? But the 20% rule creates a self-funding engine of exponential growth.
Mm.
It turns fundraising from a desperate chore into what the document calls a high-class problem.
Meaning investors will be fighting to get it.
Yes, investors will swarm because they see the exponential growth happening in real time. You aren't asking them to take a leap of faith. You are offering them a ticket on a rocket ship that has already reached escape velocity.
That makes so much sense. The virtuous cycle is laid out so clearly. The initial marketing generates steady, predictable revenue. That predictable revenue gives you extreme leverage in VC negotiations, allowing you to raise on your own terms.
Yep. Less dilution for the founders.
And then the massive influx of VC funds allows you to hire the absolute best engineering talent to build out the product faster. A better product generates richer, more complex user data. That data feeds back into the marketing machine, making the targeting even sharper, which creates even faster growth, kicking off the cycle again.
And that cycle is exactly what powers the overarching blueprint. Once this electricity is turned on and fully funded by the 20% rule, the manifesto lays out a very specific three-phase timeline.
From a few thousand beta users to $1 billion valuation.
Exactly. Between 2026 and 2031.
Let's break down these phases because they are highly engineered. Phase 1 covers the year 2026. The goal here is explosive launch and PLG dominance. The financial target is $5 million to $15 million in annual recurring revenue. First, clarify what PLG means mechanically.
So PLG stands for product-led growth. It is a go-to-market strategy where the product itself serves as the primary driver of user acquisition.
Okay, give me an example of that in the real world.
Think about when someone sends you a Calendly link to schedule a meeting. By using the product to book the meeting, you are simultaneously experiencing its value and being advertised to.
Right. You think, wow, that was easy. I want Calendly for myself.
Exactly. That's a viral loop built right into the product's function.
And logical strategy for PLG centers around something the manifesto calls logical moments. Walk me through the psychology and the technical execution of this because it strikes me as incredibly smart.
Because the AI is proactively watching your screen and doing things for you, it naturally creates these magic moments. Let's say you are in a chaotic, unstructured one-hour Zoom meeting.
Ugh, we've all been there.
Multiple people are talking over each other. Action items are being thrown around verbally. When the meeting ends, Logical instantly generates a clean, precise summary with 3 specific bullet point to-dos assigned to the correct people, complete with deadlines, and drafts an email to the team.
Which is an incredible moment of relief for the user. I'd pay for that alone.
Exactly. The strategy is to allow the user to instantly export a watermarked, shareable video clip or artifact of the AI performing that exact action. You share that magical summary with your team, and the watermark points right back to Logical.
Oh, I see.
Anyone who sees that artifact and feels the pain of chaotic meetings immediately clicks the watermark. The product advertises itself through proof of work.
But the document notes that the PLG motion can't just run on autopilot, right? It relies heavily on founder-led content, too.
Yes. Sam and Anushka are mandated to post daily threads on X, formerly Twitter, and publish YouTube demos showing a day in the life with Logical.
And the goal is to hit 500,000 combined followers by the end of 2026.
Yeah, the founders have to be the evangelists. People connect with humans, not algorithms. Sam telling the story of why he built this to end the soul-crushing friction of modern work creates an emotional connection that a standard ad just cannot replicate.
But this is where I see a massive contradiction in the manifesto, and I really want to hear how you reconcile them.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because in Phase 2, which covers 2027 to 2028, the target leaps massively to $50 million to $200 million in ARR.
That's a huge jump.
Massive jump. And the focus shifts dramatically to enterprise scale. They want to launch a Windows version and secure mid-market team pilots charging $99 or more per user per month.
Right. That is the necessary evolution to hit unicorn status. You have to move upmarket from individual users to massive corporate contracts.
Right, but here's my pushback. How does a tiny startup team balance building a highly sensitive, secure enterprise motion while simultaneously spamming viral logical moments on Twitter?
Ugh, the brand clash.
Yes. If I am a chief information security officer at a Fortune 500 company and I'm deciding whether to let an AI watch the screens of my 10,000 employees, I want to see a buttoned-up, incredibly serious security fortress.
You want IBM, basically.
Exactly. If the CEO of the AI company is busy trying to go viral on TikTok with scrappy hacker house videos, I'm not trusting them with my corporate data. Can a brand successfully be both a scrappy, viral, founder-led darling and a trusted $99 a month enterprise security vault at the exact same time?
It is the tightrope every fast-growing SaaS company has to walk, and honestly, many fall off. But the manifesto's answer is that the marketing machine protects the founders from having to choose.
How so?
Sam remains the public face, doing the high-level demos and telling the compelling story of the AI that finally gets you. But he operates atop a relentless 247 highly sophisticated machine that amplifies him appropriately.
Meaning the founders aren't the ones manually grinding out enterprise sales collateral.
Precisely. Because of the 20% rule, by the time they are targeting $50 million in ARR, they have a $10 million annual marketing budget.
Oh, wow.
That budget has funded a dedicated, deeply experienced enterprise sales team, armies of compliance officers, and targeted performance marketing that speaks the language of CISOs. The founders maintain the cultural gravity, while the machine executes the corporate precision.
So the marketing engine basically buys the founders the time and the specialized talent to actually build the enterprise-grade infrastructure without losing their authentic voice.
Exactly. And the baseline market metrics cited in the text really support this aggressive push. AI co-pilots are projected to grow from roughly $3 to $14 billion in 2025 up to $21 to $126 billion by 2030.
That's a staggering compound annual growth rate of up to 44%.
The wind is completely at their back. The market is desperate for these tools. They just need the sales fully deployed to capture it.
Which leads us to phase 3, the years 2029 to 2031. This is the platform play and global expansion phase, targeting $500 million to over $1 billion in annual recurring revenue.
The big leagues.
The big leagues. But here is where the manifesto drops what I honestly think is its most profound strategic insight. It states, and I quote, "Most founders think growth is about scaling the same thing harder. They are wrong."
That is a brilliant distillation of the problem with linear thinking.
It really is. The author is arguing that real billion-dollar growth isn't just about selling the core desktop app to more people. Real growth requires expansion into adjacent spaces.
And here is the absolute kicker. The manifesto argues that marketing is the only way to find out exactly where to expand.
Yes. Okay, my analogy for this, and I was thinking about this a lot while reading, it's like using marketing as a submarine sonar.
Oh, I love that.
Right. A lot of founders think marketing is just about casting a bigger net in the exact same spot in the ocean. You just keep hauling up the same type of fish.
Linear growth.
Yes. But in this model, marketing is pinging the deep ocean floor to map out entirely non-obvious continents, hidden trenches, and massive ecosystems where there is literally zero competition. You aren't just fishing, you are discovering new territory based on the data bouncing back.
That is a fantastic way to visualize it. The manifesto explicitly points out that adjacent spaces are almost never unearthed in internal product brainstorming meetings.
Because they're in a bubble.
Exactly.
Where
Engineers sitting in a room guessing what the market wants will almost always guess wrong. But when you are running thousands of targeted ads, analyzing thousands of user interviews, and tracking the usage data of millions of people, you see patterns you couldn't possibly predict.
So what kind of adjacencies does the sonar actually reveal for Logical in this blueprint? The document lists 4 major expansion vectors, right?
Yeah. First is AI meeting and workflow agents. This means taking their existing auto meeting distillation feature, the thing that summarizes your Zoom call, and expanding it into a full autonomous agent that acts across your email, Slack, and calendars without you needing to be there.
Like it attends the meeting for you.
Or manages the follow-up entirely. The source mentions competitors in this space, like Read AI, which was valued at $450 million, and Lindy AI. Logical's massive edge here is that it already bundles this natively on the desktop. Users don't want to buy a separate app just for meetings. They want their OS to handle it.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Second is vertical co-pilots, and this one blew my mind because of the sheer scale of the revenue potential here.
Oh yeah, the verticals are huge.
If your marketing sonar pings back and tells you, hey, we looked at the data and 40% of our power users are corporate lawyers, you don't just keep selling them the generic $99 a month tool.
No. You build a highly specialized legal bundle. You train the AI on case law, contract analysis, and legal compliance, and you charge $500 a month for it.
5 times the revenue for the same user.
Exactly. The source points to Harvey AI, which is a legal-specific agent. Harvey hit an $11 billion valuation and $100 million ARR simply by serving the legal vertical. If Logical lets the marketing data lead them, they can systematically capture these multi-billion-dollar verticals, legal, finance, medical, one by one.
Unbelievable. The third adjacency is enterprise scheduling and focus. Think about AI calendar protection, automatically declining meetings to protect deep work time.
Competing with tools like Reclaim.ai, which Dropbox acquired.
Right. And finally, the ultimate endgame, a full OS agent or desktop memory.
This is the sci-fi stuff.
It is. This involves creating a perfectly searchable photographic memory of your entire digital life. If you vaguely remember a statistic from a PDF you read 3 weeks ago while on a call with a client, you just ask Logical, and it pulls up the exact moment in time.
There are competitors trying this, like Limitless. But Logical can leverage its strict on-device privacy architecture as the ultimate differentiator. I mean, no one wants their entire digital memory stored on a public cloud.
Definitely not. So in this model, marketing acts as this massive continuous feedback loop to engineering. It tells them exactly what to build next based on actual human behavior, not guesswork.
Right.
But here is the genius of tying this back to the 20% rule. The revenue generated by the marketing engine funds the execution of these expansions. If you realize you need a specialized legal co-pilot, you don't necessarily have to pull Sam and Anushka off their core work to build it from scratch.
Exactly. You use your massive war chest to execute friendly mergers and acquisitions M&A. You find a smaller startup that already built a great legal AI but failed at distribution. You buy them, and you integrate their tech directly into Logical's operating system layer.
You buy your way into the adjacencies.
Yep. It turns Logical from a single-point desktop app into a comprehensive AI operating system layer that sits between the user and every single application they touch.
And all of this strategic expansion, this relentless funding loop, leads us to the ultimate math of the manifesto. What does the finish line actually look like if they execute this perfectly?
Let's talk hard numbers, because the source breaks down 3 distinct valuation pathways. Pathway 1 is what they call the base or moderate marketing scenario.
Okay, the conservative estimate.
All right. This is if things go well, but not perfectly. Even here, they project reaching an $800 million valuation by 2031 with $700 million in ARR. They call this unicorn adjacent. It's a massive success by any normal standard.
Yeah, let's take 800 million.
But pathway 2 is the aggressive full blitz. This assumes the founders fully surrender to the 20% rule and treat marketing as the core product. Here, they hit true unicorn status, a billion-dollar valuation by 2029 or 2030.
Oh, in 4 years?
Yeah. They project hitting $1.2 billion in ARR, which, given the incredibly high revenue multiples in the AI sector, leads to a $12 billion plus valuation.
12 billion. And then there's pathway 3. The moonshot. This is the scenario where they successfully execute all those adjacencies and friendly M&A deals we just discussed.
Right. They conquer the verticals. They become the OS layer.
This puts them on a multi-unicorn trajectory by 2031, projecting over $3 billion in ARR and a staggering $30 billion plus valuation.
It's hard to even wrap your head around numbers like that. Now, to ground those numbers, the author validates them by comparing logical to real-world precedents in the text.
Right, they point to a company called Cursor.
Yeah, Cursor is an AI code editor that achieved a $29 billion valuation on a trajectory toward $1 billion in ARR. And they also point to Harvey hitting an $11 billion valuation in early 2026. The author uses these comps to argue that $1 billion is the floor, not the ceiling, if they rigidly adhere to the system.
Okay, I have to stop and inject some serious reality into this because this is where manifestos like this tend to lose me.
Fair enough.
These numbers are absolutely astronomical, going from 1,000 beta users to $2 billion in annual recurring revenue in 5 years assumes a state of total perfection.
It does assume a lot goes right.
It assumes zero customer churn. It assumes flawless execution from a team that right now currently fits inside a minivan. But most importantly, and this is the absolute elephant in the room, it assumes zero response from the tech giants.
Ah, the existential threat.
Yes. Do we really honestly think that Apple and Microsoft, literally the most valuable companies in human history, are just going to sit on their hands while a tiny startup builds a $30 billion AI operating system right on top of macOS and Windows?
No, they won't.
What happens if Apple releases macOS 15 and simply revokes Logical's API access to record the screen? The company goes to zero overnight. Is the author conflating mathematically possible with inevitable?
It is the critical vulnerability in any 5-year plan. Planners tend to assume a vacuum where competitors and platform owners remain completely static. However, the author's defense against this is actually built into the architecture of the strategy itself.
Really? What's the defense?
The defense is speed.
Explain that. How does speed stop Apple from banning you?
It doesn't stop them from banning you, but it changes the calculus of why they would ban you.
Okay.
The reason for the phase zero sprint, the reason for the aggressive 20% allocation, and the relentless drive for PLG dominance is to reach escape velocity before Apple or Microsoft can integrate similar features at the OS level.
Because if logical moves slowly, Apple just crushes them.
Right. But if logical moves so fast that they become deeply embedded in the enterprise workflow of Fortune 500 companies, if entire law firms and financial institutions build their daily operations on top of logical because of its extreme privacy trust, then the switching costs become impossibly high.
Ah, I see. If Apple breaks logical, they break the workflows of their most valuable enterprise customers, causing massive outrage.
Exactly, you become too entrenched to kill without collateral damage. Furthermore, the tech giants are fundamentally slower. They have to worry about global regulation, antitrust lawsuits, legacy code bases.
They can't move like a startup.
A startup's only advantage is the ability to move recklessly fast. It's the oldest race in Silicon Valley. Can the startup get distribution before the incumbent gets innovation?
And this entire manifesto is essentially a militaristic manual on how to solve the distribution half of that equation with ruthless, undeniable efficiency.
Precisely.
Yeah.
It is engineering inevitability through sheer force of will and capital allocation.
This has been an incredible journey to unpack today. We started out looking at two brilliant childhood friends, Sam and Anushka, living in a Victorian hacker house, building an undeniably great, technically elegant tool to fix the Clippy problem.
And we ended with a mathematically rigid blueprint for building a $30 billion tech empire by overriding the psychological biases of his own creators.
And the relevance of this goes so far beyond just AI or Silicon Valley startups. Whether you are building a software company, running a local brick-and-mortar business, or frankly just trying to manage your own career and personal brand, the core lesson here is profound.
It really is.
Having the best skills, writing the cleanest code, or engineering the most elegant product is simply not enough.
It's the perfect engine sitting in the driveway. It looks beautiful, but it isn't going anywhere.
Exactly. How you amplify that value, how you fund its discovery, and how you use the feedback to expand what the author calls the electricity of marketing dictates your ultimate ceiling.
You can engineer the greatest solution in the history of the world, but if you treat distribution as an afterthought, you are engineering a tragedy.
So I want to leave you with a final provocative thought to ponder today. Look closely at the software, the apps, or even the physical tools you rely on every single day to do your job.
Yeah, look at what you actually use.
Are they genuinely the best, most perfectly engineered products ever created, or are they simply the ones that had the most relentless, well-funded electricity powering their journey to your screen?
It's usually the latter.
And if that is true for the software you buy, what does it mean for the ideas you were trying to sell?
It's a massive paradigm shift. It forces you to look in the mirror and ask, are you hoping for discovery, or are you architecting inevitability?
Stop waiting for the billionaires to notice the perfect engine sitting in your driveway. Go build the chassis. Go put gas in the tank. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.